Jiminy Crickets.
Jiminy Cricket is the name. I'm a happy-go-lucky fellow, always getting in wrong for singing my song. A merry old soul am I. Jiminy Cricket is the name. I'll be hanging around this evening. I'll be tipping my hat and telling you that Jiminy Cricket is the name.
Crick, 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 crick.
Hello, Cricketeers, and welcome to part 2 of our news extravaganza. We were so behind on the news that we decided to do 2 weeks in a row of our YouTube program. And last week, if you missed it, you can go back and watch. We did all of the latest theme park stories. And this week, we're doing the latest in Disney movies and any other aspects of Disney other than the theme parks. And we also have a very special tribute. So, before we get started, I just want to mention that next week, we'll be releasing an episode of our normal podcast, which is an audio version of our show. And it's going to be a 60th anniversary tribute to the animated classic Sleeping Beauty, which was released in January of 1959. And the week after that, January 31st, we're going to be releasing another episode of Dateline Jiminy Crickets. And this will be our first regular show in our normal format. So this is sort of a bonus episode. And then next week you'll have a audio show, and the week after that you'll have a brand new episode of Dateline Jiminy Crickets. So we've got everything sort of planned out, and you have plenty of content to keep you entertained throughout January. And how are you doing, Ruthie?
I am doing great and ready to talk about the new Disney movies that are coming out.
Right, but before we get to that, we have a very special announcement. Jiminy Crickets Live proudly endorses Concierge Vacation Planners, a Disney-authorized specialty vacation planning service. Concierge doesn't just book your trip, they walk you through the entire process, helping you plan out every detail, one-on-one, to make the very most out of your vacation while saving you both time and money. And the best part is, they charge nothing for their services. You will get the exact same pricing as if you booked your vacation directly through Disney. But in using Concierge expertise, you've got the added bonus of having your very own personal Disney Guru planner by your side. Both Ruthie and I are also satisfied customers, and we just can't recommend them enough. Visit their website at www.concierge.com. That's www.concierge.com, as in mouse ears. So when you book your next Disney vacation, be it Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Line, or many of the other Disney destinations available worldwide, contact Concierge Vacation Planners, and be sure to tell them Disney Chris sent you.
From the far corners of the earth, from across the 7 seas, the news of the day for the leaders of tomorrow. The Mickey Mouse Newsreel, dedicated to you, the leaders of the 21st century.
This comic strip is lame and derivative.
I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, wait. Stan Lee!
Creator of Marvel Comics?
Greetings, true believers.
It's like playing a game. Some people like to play cards. Some people like to play golf. I like to play coming up with ideas for movies or books. That's fun. You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
Invitation, sir.
I should be on that list.
Name?
Stan Lee.
Yeah, nice try, buddy.
No,
Nice
no,
try.
really,
Nice
I'm
try.
Stan
Yeah.
Lee. I've tried to write stories that anybody and everybody would enjoy. I've tried to make them understandable enough and exciting or suspenseful or interesting enough for youngsters to hold their interest. And I've tried to make them hopefully intelligent enough for older people. Are you Tony Stank?
Yes, this is Tony Stank. You're in the right place.
I've got the usual for you. Good to have you back, sir.
Thanks.
Simple. Any questions?
Yeah, can I have my shoe back? They look happy, don't they?
What, the bras?
No, the couple. They look happy.
I guess, as far as couples go.
You know, it reminds me of an issue of Spider-Man I did when Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy went lingerie shopping. Of course, the Green Goblin showed up, and he pumpkin bombed the hell out of the place. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same thing.
Oh my God.
I'm proudest of the fact that maybe some of the things I've done have entertained people. And you know, whether that's Spider-Man or Sergeant Fury and his howling commandos, or the Thing yelling clobbering time, I'm happy that some people have enjoyed it.
Well, we have to open our show with some sad news. And in case you've been living under a rock, a legend, a artistic genius, Stan Lee, passed away at the ripe old age of 95 this past November. So we haven't mentioned it yet on the show, so we thought that we would be remiss if we don't pay a special little tribute to Stan Lee, who, because of Disney having purchased Marvel several years ago, he was part of the Disney organization in a big way. And, Ruthie, what articles did we look at for this story?
So the first one, let me mention the article where we got the video from. It's called Stan Lee Marvel Comics Real Life Superhero Dies at 95 by Mike Barnes for The Hollywood Reporter. And that was dated November 12th, 2018. And like I said, the video that we just played at the beginning was from that article. And I thought that was a really excellent tribute to him. Really gives you the feels. And the other article that we are referencing is Excelsior, Remembering Stan Lee by Shelley Valladolid from Mice Chat, also November 12th, 2018.
Right. So, we have a few quotes that people left in tribute, some significant people. We wanted to read those. Show you how people felt about Stan Lee. And the first one is, of course, is from Bob Iger, CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Stan Lee was as extraordinary as the characters he created, a superhero in his own right to Marvel fans around the world. Stan had the power to inspire, to entertain, and to connect. The scale of his imagination was only exceeded by the size of his heart. The Marvel Studios president, Kevin Feige, is it Feige?
It's Feige.
Feige? I was way off. Sorry, Kevin, if you're watching. No one has had more of an impact on my career and everything we do at Marvel Studios than Stan Lee, Feige said. Stan Lee leaves an extraordinary legacy that will outlive us all. Our thoughts are with his daughter, his family, and the millions of fans who have been forever touched by Stan's genius, charisma, and heart. And another one I wanted to include because I thought it was very magnanimous of them to tribute him because they're the competitors of Marvel. And it didn't give a name specifically. This was from the DC Comics Twitter account. He changed the way we look at heroes, and modern comics will always bear his indelible mark. His infectious enthusiasm reminded us why we all fell in love with these stories in the first place. Excelsior, Stan! Now, so for those who don't know, and I actually just learned this because I'm not a big comic person, as you know, that was sort of his expression. Excelsior was his something he always said at the end of his column that he wrote. And he also wrote a book that had that in the book title. So I'm going to let you sort of take over on this, Ruthie, since you probably know a lot more about Stan Lee than me. So why don't you tell us how you feel about Stan Lee and anything you'd like to share about his life?
Well, my feeling about Stan Lee is, I think he lived a great long life, and he really put his mark on pop culture as we know it today. And I kind of equate him to Walt Disney. He is the Walt Disney of comic books and superheroes.
I would say so.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I look at him. And I also, kind of in the same way, I think the amount of impact that he has been able to create in his life, kind of saddens me to think about Walt Disney and what he could have done with the years that we lost from him, since we lost him so early.
Right.
So, because he could have had a good 30 more years, just like Stan did, to really just change things even more.
Right.
But Stan Lee is going to be hugely missed, especially in the cameos that he makes in every Marvel movie that has been created. He always had a cameo, and he is going to really be missed when those cameos aren't there anymore. I think he definitely has one for Captain Marvel, which we're going to talk about, and also Avengers Endgame. And I'm not sure if he might have one for Spider-Man, but I kind of feel like after the end of this year, there isn't going to be any more.
Right.
So it's going to really be sad to not see
Right. He always made a
up.
small, sort of usually unrelated to the story itself. He just sort of popped up at some point during every film, sort of like Alfred Hitchcock did. But unlike Alfred Hitchcock, he made his presence more known. It's in Alfred Hitchcock movies, you might miss him if you don't know you're looking for him. He did it very subtly, but Stan Lee, you knew he was there.
Right. Even to the you saw in the video, there was a couple of animated cameos where they put him in there in Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that cameo in Big Hero 6. So, I definitely want to honor him and his legacy, and he's really gonna, leave a mark on us for a really long time. And I thank Disney and the Marvel Company for continuing his legacy.
Right. So let's just name off some of his credits here. He was responsible for the creation of many different characters in the Marvel Universe. In fact, most of them. The Fantastic Four, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, the X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel. Who else, Ruthie? Am I missing any? Ant-Man?
There's basically
Black Panther.
all of them.
Yeah.
He had a hand in all of them. The thing about him is he was artistic, but his art really shone through in the stories that he created for these characters.
Right. The difference between him and what was going on before him is superheroes were very two-dimensional without real personalities. Like, they were just kind of like goody two-shoe type characters. Like Superman, he's changed over the years, but originally he was just sort of like the all-American, even though he's from another planet, the all-American, like, good guy. Like, you know, there was no, like, he was a very black and white character. What he did, like, especially with the onset of Spider-Man, is he gave them real traits of human beings. So, for example, Spider-Man was a teenager, and he had teenage angst, and he worried about things like acne and you know, girls and you know, these were things that weren't really touched on before him. And then over the years it got like, that sounds very superficial, but over the years he got even more into, you know, the idiosyncrasies of personalities, and especially with the villains he wrote about, you know, he did stories for. He got into like some serious like social disorders, like why they were the way they were, you know, like they were beaten as a child or something, you know. He got into all that.
Well, and what that did was make these characters more relatable to the public. And so people started caring about them, and that it really helped to boost sales of the comics. I mean, and that's not why he was doing it. He was just a storyteller, and this is what he loved to do.
He just told stories the way he enjoyed the stories himself. Now, so one other thing is that in the early 70s, he started like really pushing the boundaries. There was a whole thing with comic books. They sort of set up a self-censoring thing in the 50s because a lot of parents were complaining about how comic books were corrupting their children. So rather than wait around for the government to censor them, the comic book industry sort of set their own code of ethics, and they would put a stamp of approval on the front of a cover if it met the criteria of those ethics. So Stan Lee, you know, just the nature of the business, had to conform to that. But then in the early 70s, he started pushing the limits of it, and he actually released a comic book about drug abuse, you know, anti-drug abuse, and they didn't approve it, and it was one of the top-selling comic books of that era. So people started to realize, hey, we don't need to rely anymore on this stamp of approval. We can, you know, push the boundaries. And eventually they went back and started becoming more lenient, you know, the censoring. I forget what it's called, but the thing they set up where they censor the comic books. And Stan Lee really had a big hand in kind of pushing the boundaries as far as that. Now when you look at comic books, they're, you know, anything goes. But back then it was really very censored.
Yeah, and he did talk about stuff that other people weren't talking about, like you said, drug abuse. He talked about, you know, racial issues, about bullying, all of those kind of things. He was talking about that stuff before anybody else.
Right, absolutely. So he will definitely be missed, but the one thing, and the same thing can be said about Walt, his creations, his characters will live forever.
Yep.
So we can, you know, his imagination is timeless and has no bounds.
Yeah, and he has a huge library. Marvel has a huge library. You think these movies, they're barely touching the surface of the characters that were created through Marvel.
Well,
so Excelsior.
Yes. We hardly knew ye, Stan Lee. So, the next story we want to touch upon is Disney Plus. So, they officially gave the streaming service a moniker, a name, back in November.
Thank God it wasn't Disney Play.
Yeah. So, it's Disney Plus. This is the logo, the official logo, and I don't like it. I mean, I like everything in it except for I don't like the crooked plus sign.
Yeah, like the kind of bubbled looking plus sign.
They're trying to make it look like it's a continuation of that, like, magic, like, rainbow, whatever that is. But to me, it doesn't work. I have a degree in design. I know what I'm talking about. I just don't feel that looks right. It just looks off to me. I get what they were going for, but I think to the average person, they're not going to read it that way. It took me a while to figure out why the heck it was bent like that. Anyway, that being said, I'm nitpicking. So the streaming service is, well, first of all, what articles did we look at for this? We looked at several.
We looked at 4 separate articles. So the first one, Bob Iger talks Disney Plus, Hulu Plus, and his vision for enlarged TV studio by Cynthia Littleton for Variety. That's dated November 8th, 2018. The next one is new Star Wars and Marvel series announced for Disney Plus streaming service. And this was just on the Walt Disney Company website, November 8th, 2018. Walt Disney Imagineering docu-series coming to Disney Plus by Matthew Soberman for WDW News Today. That was November 9th, 2018. And then Disney Plus streaming service, release date, price, shows, and movies to expect by Mike Sorrentino and Joan E. Solzman for CNET.com. That's January 4th, 2019.
So, Bob Iger last November revealed several things about the streaming service. First of all, like we said, the name. And we already knew, but he reiterated that it's going to be launching late 2019. So expect to see this by New Year's Eve. And so he also talked about some of the content. And also they're going to give sort of a preview in April to shareholders and investors at some sort of a conference. It's going to be a first look. So we can expect to see bloggers and everything going crazy over that come April. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of details by then.
Yeah.
So they're going to focus. So he was asked specifically because part of the problem is that with their acquisition of 20th Century Fox, they're garnering 60% ownership of Hulu, which is sort of what I was going to think of as a competitor until I realized, hey, they own it also. So then the question is, what's going to differentiate Hulu from Disney Plus? So Iger explained that. And he said that the difference is Hulu is going to be just more like, what's on TV, like focused at general audiences, maybe more mature audiences, just like regular television series and that sort of thing. Whereas the Disney Plus is going to be focused on the Disney library of film and content, like all of its franchises such as Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, etc. Also interesting is with their acquisition of did I call it 20th Century?
You did,
21st Century Fox. They're also going to own National Geographic, which will be interesting because they also do their film, The Disney Nature. So I'm wondering how that's going to tie together. But anyway, they're going to have the whole library of National Geographic. They have a vast library of documentaries over spanning decades, So, I mean, there's so much content that is not what is general TV fare. So that's the difference. This is not going to be like, they're not going to show sitcoms that are on regular TV on Disney Plus. Those will be on Hulu. Even if it's a Disney-owned sitcom on ABC, that's a Hulu thing, or a crime drama or whatever they show. That's all Hulu. And then the stuff on Disney Plus is stuff you can't see on regular TV. Is that how you sort of read it?
Yeah, and also like the movies that they're going to, become owners of when they finalize the purchase of the 21st Century Fox.
Like the
They'll
whole
show
library.
them on Hulu. Yeah. I mean, anything PG-13 and lower, they'll show on Disney Plus. But anything over PG-13 rating, they'll show on Hulu.
Now, I think they're gonna own stuff like The Simpsons, and I think anything like that would be Hulu, because people don't think of it as a Disney thing.
Right.
But anything Disney, it'll be on the Disney Plus. So they also mentioned some of the series that they have planned for the streaming service. Some of them I knew about, some of them were sort of news to me. So they're actually, what I'm probably the most excited about, is they're going to have a documentary called The Imagineering Story. And it sounds like it's going to be a docu-series. Like, it's going to be a whole series of... And they're saying that this is going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at Imagineering like never seen before. Like, this is going to be an expose of what really goes on behind the scenes at Imagineering. Well, I don't think it's going to be anything scandalous or anything.
Right.
But it's going to really show you what the process of Imagineering is. It's not going to get into the... Well, Lily's excited, my cat. They're gonna get into the whole the beginning to end, the bare bones of what goes on to create attractions in the Disney parks.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. Ruthie, you made a whole list here of things. So they're gonna be doing some. They're gonna be releasing their movies that would normally be shown on Amazon, like you can rent movies on Amazon streaming or YouTube. Those are no longer, I feel, going to be available. You have to in order to watch those, you have to go to Disney Plus from now on.
Right.
So any of the new movies,
the end of 2019, yeah.
Right. So when the new Star Wars movies go on TV, go online. When Marvel movies go online, any Pixar, Disney films, this is where you have to go see them.
Yeah.
So then the other thing is they have some movies that are planned that are going to be, made exclusively for this service. They're not going to be theatrical releases. And some of them are going to be a Three Man and a Baby remake. Everything's a remake.
Yeah.
A Sword in the Stone remake. A live-action Lady and the Tramp. And also, they're going to have a possible Muppet series. A High School Musical series.
Yeah.
And, what else? They're going to have a Star Wars series.
That's one of the announcements he made was another. So they already announced the Mandalorian, but now they're going to do another Star Wars series based on the character Cassian Andor, who was from Rogue One. So it's going to be a prequel to Rogue One, and with this character, because if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, he dies in the movie. So, so it definitely has to be something that happens before Rogue One.
So they're also gonna do an animated series based on Monsters, Inc., which is the first I've heard of that. And what else do we got? Oh, Marvel. We've got some interesting things coming out from Marvel. What are those?
So they're going to be developing, these are going to be short, series, maybe 10-episode series based on Loki, Scarlet Witch, a possible series with Falcon and Bucky Barnes / Winter Soldier. So all of these are in development right now, and they're because they have to get all of this stuff ready and have it ready for when they're ready to launch the streaming service, because they got to have stuff ready for people to watch that people are going to want to watch.
Right.
So that they will subscribe.
They have to get people excited to sign up.
Right.
So they have to make exclusive content that will, whet people's appetite to join.
Right.
Exactly. So, speaking of whetting our appetites, let's talk about the upcoming year in movies. And Disney is going to be releasing how many new movies? 10?
10.
10 movies this year under the, Disney, aka Marvel, aka Lucasfilm
AKA
banner,
Pixar.
aka Pixar, which those are sort of the four that are all sort of under the window as far as theatrical releases that are considered Disney.
Yep. The big hitters.
Yeah. No more Touchstone, no more Hollywood films. Those have sort of gone by the wayside. Disney isn't doing that type of content anymore geared towards adult audiences, and I'm sort of happy about that. I never really felt right about Disney producing that sort of, like Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
It's sort of a sleazy movie for Disney to be putting out there. Anyway, we're going to talk about the 10 movies coming out this year and any thoughts we have on them. First one coming out is on March 8th, Captain Marvel, or as Ruthie liked to say, Marvel.
Well.
Or like the ice cream cake,
was...
like the ice cream cakes, right? Only with an M. Carvel,
like
Marvel.
Carvel, yeah. Yes. So Captain Marvel, this is the continuing MCU saga. This movie is following Carol Danvers. She's reborn with superpowers, and it's going to take place in the 90s. And she becomes known as Captain Marvel. And if you want to continue in the MCU series, you need to watch this one before you watch the next Avengers movie, because she is going to be in the next Avengers movie, and you won't understand what her powers are or anything like that unless you watch her movie first.
Ruthie, if I were to watch any of these, I'd have to watch 25 movies to get up to plot. I haven't seen any of them.
But they're all awesome. I love Marvel. So this is the first one's coming out very soon. I actually already purchased tickets to go see this, and I'm going to see it on the 8th.
So I was a little confused because I thought Captain Marvel was a male. What happened?
Originally in the comic book, Captain Marvel is a male. And then she trains under him, and then something happens where he dies, and so she takes on his name to honor him.
And his powers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, now I'm not
gotcha.
saying that's going to be the story in the movie. That's the comic books.
And when did that happen? Like, around what year did that? Just out of curiosity. Was that in the 80s or maybe in the 90s when this takes place is when it happened?
Yeah,
maybe that's why it's set in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, Ruthie's looking forward to that.
I'm excited. Yes.
She's already got her tickets.
Yep.
And I saw her post on Facebook about how geeked out she is over this. So the next one is something I'm torn. I still don't know what I think about this. I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
About
we can talk more about it later. Like specific feelings.
Yeah, we're gonna show some trailers later, including this one. But this one's coming out in March, also March 29th. And this is basically, they call it live action, even though all the animals are CGI.
Yeah, but there's people.
This one has people, but then there's ones that don't even have any human beings at all, and they call them live action, and it's animated. It just looks like it's live action, but I don't like how they call it live action when it isn't live action. But again, I'm being nitpicky. So we'll get into Dumbo a little bit later. But let's talk about the next one, which is Penguins. And this is in the, like I mentioned earlier, the Disney Nature. This is actually, I think they've released like 15 of them or something crazy like that already. It seems like every year they're releasing a new one.
Yeah, they try and do one like every Earth Day.
So this is coming out on Earth Day. which is this year's April 17th. And basically the plot is penguins. I mean, this reminds me of the very first Disney. The very first thing I thought of when I saw the pictures and everything, it reminds me of the very first true life adventure, Seal Island, which came out in '49, because it's just sort of like follows the life and happenings with a clan of penguins, just like it did with, I guess, what do you call them? You know, each animal, when they're a group, they have a different, like it's a murder of crows and a gaggle of geese.
I don't remember the name. Family? I'm going to say family.
And anyway, they did the same thing with seals in the original. So it's kind of seems like the same idea. But I mean, I'm up for penguins anytime. I love penguins. I love animals, so I'll enjoy this. I usually don't get to the theater, but I usually do see them shortly after. You know, when they get released on DVD or online, I watch them right away, because I enjoy these, because they remind me of the old true life adventures. Is Disney sort of hasn't ever given up on that whole idea. You know, Disney invented the nature documentary. Seal Island is really the very first modern day nature documentary. There wouldn't be a National Geographic or Discovery Channel hadn't it been for, you know, the ground that was laid by Disney in the late 40s. So we're looking forward to that.
Yep.
That's really the first one that I'm genuinely looking forward to so far. And the next one, I know Ruthie is looking forward.
Yes. This is my ultimate movie that I'm waiting to see. Avengers Endgame. So this is
April 26th.
Yes, it comes out April 26th, and this is the movie. We all watched Infinity Wars. We saw what happened there. Now we're going to find out what really happens. How are they going to close that story with the Avengers?
Thank God. I need closure.
I know you're dying, right, Chris? So they're trying, you know, we'll have Iron Man, Captain America, Ant-Man as they try to reverse Thanos' life-altering snap. So, we don't have this on the list completely because it's not 100% Disney, but following this movie, Spider-Man Far From Home, which is the Marvel/Sony, you know, partnership there.
Right, because Disney isn't allowed to do Spider-Man.
Right, without, you know, partnering with Sony, because Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man.
Right, and I think that might change in the future, but for now, that's the way it is. I think their contract is going to eventually run out, and then Disney will own full outright when that contract ends.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure when it ends, but
me neither.
That movie's going to be the one that comes out after Endgame. So whatever happens in Endgame, you know, this Spider-Man movie is going to be kind of like I mean, we are all thinking that it's going to be after, it's going to take place after Endgame. So it's going to be kind of like you'll see some of the results of what happened in that movie.
You think they're going to tie in, or are they going to be completely a separate thing because they're being produced by a different studio?
No, they're tied in. Spider-Man is in Infinity War.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
Spider-Man actually died in Infinity War.
Oh,
or
he
didn't actually die. He dusted. That's what I call it. He dusted.
Oh,
so when Thanos snapped, people disappeared, turned into dust, and Spider-Man was one of them. So how is he becoming, you know, going from dust to becoming like a, you know, a boy who's, you know, living his life again? We don't know. So so we have these movies to look forward to, and like I said, you got to watch Captain Marvel first, then you can watch Avengers Endgame, and then just a couple months later you watch Spider-Man, and those are going to be the main Marvel releases for 2019.
So this is going to follow Iron Man, Captain America, and Ant-Man as they try to reverse Thanos, who I guess screwed everyone over in the last one and killed off half of everybody. That's what I heard, like half of the superheroes were gotten rid of.
Yep.
So
they were dusted.
They were dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
It's basically exactly what it looked like. So.
So Ruthie's looking forward to that.
Yes.
And the next one, oh God. We'll get into this later. I have a lot to say. I'm worried. Yeah. But the next one, the next one is Aladdin, the live-action remake. That's coming out in May 24th. Yeah. We're going to get into that later. So let's move on for now. The next one is Toy Story 4. Finally. We've been hearing about this one for like 10 years it seems.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
This is coming out in June 21st. Here's a picture of some of the new characters that are going to be in it. And we got a trailer featuring them, so we'll show that in a few minutes. So when's that coming out, did I say?
Yeah, June 21st.
June 21st, okay. So then the next one is The Lion King. Everything remake, sequel, sequel. The Lion King live action, which isn't actually live action. And this is coming out July 19th. Which when did the original came out around July, so it's probably around the 22nd well, let's see, not 22nd.
No, the 25th. It was 1994.
And 25th anniversary. I think it's probably going to come out right on the 20th. It sounds like right around the same time. Maybe they planned it that way.
Maybe.
So that's and we're going to talk about that in detail later. The next one, this is news. This the first I heard about this.
Oh yeah, they actually have a teaser trailer out for this.
Yeah.
This is Artemis Fowl, which is, a series of children's books titled, following this character Artemis Fowl, and they're adapting these novels into this movie. Well, the first movie. I'm sure they want to make a series of movies with this character.
Oh, of course, everything, Ruth.
Right.
Everything is a franchise now. Everything.
Well, if it's popular, if people like it, if people go see this, then they will. So the movie is being released August 9th, and what the plot is that it follows a 12-year-old genius, Artemis Fowl, who comes from a family of criminal masterminds. Fowl finds himself face-to-face with a race of fairies who may have something to do with the mysterious disappearance of his father.
Sounds so random. Fairies.
I know.
How's that? It sounds interesting. That one I actually wouldn't mind seeing. That sounds different. And see, that's what I like when they do something new.
Yeah.
It's actually the only thing in the whole year that's not a sequel or a remake.
Right.
It's the only film in 2019 that's an original film. I mean, it's based on a book, but everything's based on a book, so I'm not...
Well, if you're not counting the Marvel movies, those are all original.
They're sequels.
Well, I mean, it's actually not really a sequel. It's like an ongoing story.
Well, I don't... That's kind of its own thing. Anyway, so speaking of sequels...
Yes. The much-awaited sequel.
Frozen 2. Slush. Frozen 2, Slush.
Yes. So this is going to be released November 22nd, right around Thanksgiving.
We'll have something to be thankful for.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not a supporter of this at all. I mean, I don't know. I think this is just a cash grab.
Yeah.
There's no artistic merit to doing this at all. It's just a total cash grab. And I don't care for it. I mean, I've seen the original. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. But because of all the hype, it kept me from, really appreciating it. Because I was, telling myself not to. Because I didn't want to give in to the hype over it,
Right.
Even though it was a good movie, it was an original concept. It had nothing to do with the original story it was based on. It was totally an original story, original songs, original plot. Everything was. It was. I have to confess it was a very well done, good film.
Yeah.
This is a cash grab, and I have no patience for it, and I have no interest in it at all. And I bet you it's going to do great, too.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I hope they don't keep that name, Frozen 2. I hope they actually come up with a real name. But anyway.
Melted.
But I mean, this, so we don't have an official synopsis.
The melt.
Right, I know.
The big melt.
We don't have an official synopsis or trailer for this movie yet, but...
I have the perfect title. Frozen 2, Summer Vacation.
Yeah.
There we go. Or European Vacation.
Frozen 2, Electric Boogaloo.
oh, that's even better.
So we don't know anything about this movie other than the fact that it has the same characters from the previous movie with the same actors providing the same voices, and also the same director, Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee. They're returning, along with the Oscar-winning songwriting team, Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez. So they're going to be writing new songs for the film. So it's everybody's being reunited for this film.
Reunited, and it feels so good. All right,
I'll definitely be seeing this. I like Frozen.
I'll see it when it's released. I'll watch it after I see Coco and all those, What else haven't I seen yet? Coco. Zootopia.
Yeah.
Big Hero 6. After I see all those, then I'll put this at the end of the list. What's the one that takes place in Polynesia? I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, Moana?
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Love
and
Moana.
I could literally, after we're done with the show, I could watch them. I have every one of them. I just haven't watched them. I just can't sit down and watch movies. I just don't have the patience for it.
Mm-hmm.
When I have to, I do, like we're doing Sleeping Beauty, so I sat down and I watched Sleeping Beauty. I forced myself. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying I get too antsy. You know what I mean? So anyway. And the final film of the year is Star Wars Episode 9.
Released on December 20th, so right before Christmas.
I'm worried because the last one didn't do well. I think people are having burnout on the Star Wars.
That could be, but I have no doubt this one's going to be extremely popular because this movie is we don't have a synopsis yet, of course. We don't have any trailers because that would break
in a
the internet.
Deep vault. Yeah, Disney's not letting any of that out.
Right. But we do know a couple things. So this is going to be the last movie about the Skywalker family. So the storyline regarding any of the Skywalkers ends in this movie.
Ends here. And that's good because they're dying off, unfortunately.
Right. Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Carrie Fisher's no longer with us. And we don't know yet how they're going to solve that problem in this film.
Well, they said that they're going to be using previously unused footage that they shot for the first two, so Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
Okay, all right.
Unused footage, they're going to use that in this movie. They got permission from her family members, from her brother and her daughter.
Right.
And then
J.J.
Abrams
I think I did hear that.
Yeah. So J.J. Abrams is returning as the director of this movie.
Yeah.
And he was the director of Force Awakens.
Right.
And Force Awakens was a huge, huge hit. And everybody's kind of looking to JJ to kind of redeem this
that might
whole
get
franchise.
more seats in the theater, butts in the seats, as they say, knowing that he's the director might get more people out there to see it. Yeah.
So, and he's writing the script and returning to direct. So, there is hope for this franchise yet, and I'm sure he's going to do a phenomenal job. And I think he's going to end.
I'm sure it'll be a fantastic film.
Yeah,
that I have no doubt.
Do it right.
I absolutely agree, but my concern is not whether or not it's going to be good. It's whether or not people have burnout from Star Wars. Like every year, there's a Star Wars movie. Right. In the off years, there's a offshoot movie.
Yeah,
so
they're
I
not
mean,
doing that anymore.
Yeah, they need to simmer down with the
Yeah.
Star Wars, and get people, and to anticipate it again. When, it's like when you give someone too much candy, they get sick. That's
Right.
basically what's happening.
So the last Star Wars movie that was released was Solo. That was May of 2018. So by the time this is released, it'll be like over a year and a half since we've had a Star Wars movie in the theater. So hopefully
a
that's
whole
enough
year
time.
and a half. Wow. God. A whole generation has happened. A year and a half. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. They're still trying to feel out the the fans and how what works best for them, because right now with Marvel, they are releasing 3 Marvel movies a year, and people are going to see that, and and it doesn't stop people from going to to keep up with those stories.
Yeah,
So
that's
they're
sort
trying
of
to
a
figure out Star
strange.
Wars.
Yeah,
They
it's
haven't
sort
hit
of a
their
strange
pitch yet.
thing how the Marvel doesn't seem to be slowing down, and people can't get enough of it. But with the Star Wars, it doesn't quite have that same. It's kind of strange how that
is.
dynamic. It's not really easy to explain why. It's
And they were trying to do the Marvel approach, and that didn't work. So
No.
they're trying to figure it out.
yeah. I think the Marvel approach is good for Marvel, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can't, because other studios have tried the same thing too. Like Universal tried to launch a whole Universal monster thing with the remake of The Mummy, and that tanked, and they've also tried to emulate the DC movies have tried to sort of emulate what Marvel's been doing, and they haven't been able to figure it out. So I don't know. I think it only works for Marvel.
Yeah.
And I just think it's lightning in a bottle, and that's all there is to it. So anyway, we're gonna watch some trailers for 4 of the films we just mentioned, and we'll get into more details on the other films when it's closer to when they're going to be released, and when we have more details, and when they have trailers and everything. So we'll return to these topics for sure in future episodes. But for now, we're going to kind of hone in and focus on 4 that we sort of have some things to say about. So let's show the first trailer, okay, Ruthie?
Let's go.
All right.
Welcome, baby Dumbo. We're all family here, no matter how small.
You have something very rare. You have wonder. You have mystique. You have magic. Wow! Come with me. Together, we can soar on that elephant's wings.
What's happening? Where are they taking her?
Take Dumbo back inside.
But she's his mom. Do something. He needs us. Look at me. We're gonna bring your mama home.
He doesn't look like magic to me.
Your children need you to believe in them.
You can do it, Dumbo. Show him. Fly, Dumbo. Fly. Baby of mine.
So, from the imagination of Tim Burton, huh?
Yeah.
More like from the imagination of all of Walt Disney's animators, and he's taking their ideas. Let's do something original, Mr. Burton. Anyway, that being said, I have some issues with Dumbo. Not the original. In fact, the original, I have no issues. It's a perfect... The reason I have issues is because the original is so perfect. Why are you redoing it? So, the problems I have with Dumbo as a remake are that they have to give everything, like, all this any movies today, like, see, older movies, you didn't have to explain everything. Like, there's so much in Pinocchio that's never explained, and you just kind of come up with... Like, they never explain why they're turning into donkeys exactly. What's making them turn into donkeys? That's not explained, ever. You can assume that maybe it's the cigars they're smoking, or the beer they're drinking, or, you know, maybe the air that's in Pleasure Island is causing them to turn into... They don't explain it, but you just don't need it to be explained to you. You just accept it. But in anything made today, everything has to be explained and over-explained, and I know that's what they're going to do with Dumbo. Because in the original, they don't explain stuff. They don't explain why Dumbo can fly. They don't explain why... You know, it's just... They don't get into it, and they don't need to get into it. They keep it short and simple. It's the shortest full-length animated film Disney ever did. It's just over 60 minutes long. And it's perfect.
It's barely a full-length movie.
It barely is.
Yeah.
But now they're going to kind of stretch it out to like a 90-minute film.
Oh,
or
yeah,
longer.
they're adding a whole bunch of story.
Of course, and I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want it. It's not needed. I also don't like the whole seedy carnival look of it. Like, you know, the whole... You know, it reminds me of other Tim Burton movies like, what's the one? Big Fish? Where it's like a seedy underbelly of carnival life, where the tents are faded and, you know, not everything's bright and colorful. That's not Dumbo to me. Dumbo is bright, colorful, beautiful, visually stunning color circus, not this Tim Burton version where everything has to have some sort of a Hot Topic look to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't like that for Dumbo. It works in other films, that tone of the, you know, the dark side of carnival life. It works for other films, but Dumbo, I feel like I don't want that to be associated with Dumbo. Dumbo's different than that. The other thing is I don't like having the two little kids in this movie as the quote-unquote relatables. I don't like that. Where's Timothy? They're taking the place of Timothy, and they sort of... It seems like there's an Easter egg where they show them a little cage with mice in it, and that's sort of like they're like paying homage to Timothy. I know Timothy's not in this. I know it. They haven't mentioned him. They don't, you know... He's... How can you have a Dumbo without a Timothy? Yeah. And you have these two whiny little brats instead playing the Timothy part. And I say whiny little brats because everything in the movie, they have like sourpusses on their... the trailer, did you see them smile in this trailer?
One time, the girl was smiling.
They just seem like depressed little kids that have a chip. I don't know. I don't like it. And it reminds me of things like Casper, the live-action Casper, or you know, those kind of movies from the 90s. It's like, enough with these kids that have, like, you know, dark clothes and pale faces. Enough of it. It's been done. It's been overdone. I don't know. Do I sound like I'm not making any sense, or do you disagree with me?
You make sense. I mean, those are your feelings. I understand. I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about this movie too, but the thing that's kind of pushing me a little bit more towards being a little bit more excited about this movie rather than any of the other remakes is Tim Burton. And I feel like he is going to have, a story to tell. He is going to bring something new and different to this story. So I really like Tim Burton, and I like his storytelling. So I'm kind of, putting a little bit of, trust in him with this movie.
With me, I like Tim Burton in some things and not in others. I don't like it when he puts his hands in classic Disney stories. Because he's ruined some of them for me. Like, I hate the Alice in Wonderlands that he did. I can't stand them. They're awful. They're terrible. I hate them. So I just don't like the way he handles this sort of material. Whereas movies like Sweeney Todd or Edward Scissorhands or Nightmare Before Christmas, those are fantastic. I love those. So, I mean, I love him when he does original stuff or adapts stuff that isn't Disney, but when he does like these classic Disney stories, I don't like it. I don't like when it's not two great tastes that go great together. It's not chocolate and peanut butter to me. It's like chocolate and tuna fish. It doesn't go good together. So, anyway, but then I see scenes, and I feel like this is like trying to get me. When they show, they're purposely trying to trick me. When they show like the scene with the trunk reaching out to pet Dumbo, they're purposely trying to tug at my heartstrings, and they're trying to remind me of the original. But then I say to myself, well, why don't I just go watch the original if it's the exact same scene? Why do I need to watch it again when the original is better? So it's like, I'm torn though, because those sort of things do get to my feeling zone, but I just don't know what to think.
There was a teaser trailer that we didn't play that was released before this full trailer, and in that teaser trailer it was very emotional to see Dumbo fly at the end, which they didn't show in this trailer.
Right.
And that was what got me, was seeing him fly. And, just remembering all of the struggle that he had to go to get to that point where he felt confident enough to fly. So, I mean, I'll have a really good feeling about this movie if I get that same feeling.
Well, the other thing that creeped me out is the clown makeup.
Yeah.
That they put on him. It looks
like it looks more realistic.
It looks like another Tim Burton movie, Batman, the original from the 80s. It looks like Jack Nicholson in Batman, the Joker. It creeped me out. Or it looks even more like, no, not even that. It looks like the more recent Batman, the guy that played him passed away. I forget his name.
You're talking about Heath Ledger plays
Yes,
Joker. Yeah,
that's the one that it looks like. Yeah.
But that's not Tim Burton, that movie.
No, but it still looks
like Christopher
him.
Nolan, but
yeah. It's still, that's what the makeup looks like to me. It creeped me out. Well, let's talk about something brand new that's never been tried before.
Right?
to go see Aladdin, Ruthie. Well, you didn't answer me.
I am going to go see Aladdin.
Well, okay. I just have a feeling that this is going to be sort of the proverbial jumping of the shark when it comes to these remakes. I feel like this is gonna tank, and Disney's gonna little by little start phasing out the whole remake thing. Now, Ruthie disagrees. We were talking about this just now while the trailer was playing. But I feel like there's just some things about this that are kind of off-putting to people. And I think that it's gonna not do... I mean, it'll make a profit, but it's not gonna, like, do crazy like the other remakes have done.
Yeah.
And I really feel the reason for it, and I'm sad to say because I do like Will Smith in other things. I just feel like he's going to turn people off from going to see this because, not because of anything other than he's not Robin Williams, and nobody could ever fill those shoes. Absolutely. Nobody could. I don't care. I mean, you could resurrect, you know, the Charlie Chaplin, and he couldn't fill Robin Williams' shoes.
Lewis. I mean,
none of these, nobody could ever top his performance. And Ruthie and I were just saying how, of all the films that came out during the Disney Renaissance era, this is both of our favorite.
Yep, I love Aladdin. I
And
love
I
the
think
genie.
the main reason
Robin Williams is like phenomenal. I mean,
that's the main reason why this is my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, the story's good too, but it's the genie and the way that he is able to bring this, you know, not even a person, but just this entity, and just bring so much personality and so much heart to this character. And I mean, Will Smith is gonna either make it or break it, and that is going to be the fate of the movie. It rests on his shoulders, on his portrayal of this character.
So far, people are sort of rejecting it. There's some signs that people are already rejecting him in this role because a entertainment magazine, I forget which one. Do you remember which one that had the...
I want to say it was Variety. Yeah, it was Variety.
It was Variety, you're right. They released a picture of the three main stars, Aladdin, Jasmine, and the genie, Will Smith, and there was a huge outburst online over the fact that he's not blue in the picture. And he had to go online and reassure people, wait, I am blue in the movie, don't worry.
Right.
This is just me in human form. But when when I'm the genie, I'm blue. So he had to explain it. So people are already nitpicking this. Yeah. People are already, so that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Another thing that's not a good sign in my eyes is some of the things Will Smith has said about his portrayal of this part. Now, nothing against hip-hop culture. I have no ill will about it whatsoever. I really don't. It's not me. It's not what I'm into. But I understand, there's different strokes for different folks. Other people are into it, whatever. I have nothing against it. But Will Smith said that he's going to bring a little hip-hop to the role of the genie. Now, okay, bringing a little hip-hop to a role is fine, but not this one.
Not this role, yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like that's not what this role is. And to do that is to sort of, I don't know. I just don't feel it's right. And I feel it's a little bit of stereotyping, too, to do that. It's too easy. He said it's going to be like Fresh Prince meets something
Hitch.
Else.
Part Fresh Prince, part Hitch. That's what one executive described his portrayal of Genie.
Don't get me wrong. I watched Fresh Prince religiously as a kid.
Yeah.
I loved Will Smith. I still do love Will Smith.
Yeah.
But not... Fresh Prince is a great character, but it's not the genie.
Right.
I just have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people, not just Disney fans, are going to have that same problem.
Yeah.
And people are going to be a little timid to go sit for 90 minutes and watch Will Smith as the, not Will Smith, Fresh Prince as the genie.
Right.
And the thing is, Will Smith is a good actor, and he has a far stronger range than that. That's
right.
That's him not giving a care about this role. By doing that is saying to me, he just showed up.
Like he didn't really fell back on what he knows.
Yeah, he didn't put his heart. He didn't put his heart into this. He just sort of did what came easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't appreciate that. Now maybe everybody else in this is going to be wonderful. I really don't even know about anything else other than Will Smith. Everybody else looks fine. The look of the film looks great. Everything, but it doesn't matter because the only thing people are going to look at is Will Smith, and they're going to judge everything else based on the genie. Nothing else is gonna. Everything else can be wonderful, but if he doesn't pull it off, and signs say, I'm worried.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie's not gonna work.
This is how I feel about it. So there's a couple of characters that are basically untouchable, and the genie is one of them. Another one, and I'm gonna make this parallel, is Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
To me, that character is untouchable, and only Julie Andrews can play Mary Poppins. But I gotta tell you, when I saw Mary Poppins Returns, one of the things I really liked about the movie was Emily Blunt. I thought she was excellent as Mary Poppins. So, I did have some problems with the storyline, but I really liked her portrayal of Mary Poppins. She sold me. So this is what Will Smith has to do with the genie. And the only way he's going to sell people is by doing something close to the original. I mean,
it can be
Emily
his
Blunt
take on it, but it
her
sounds
voice
like he's
to
going
make a similar voice as Mary Poppins.
It sounds like he's going in a completely different direction.
Right.
Where Emily Blunt she did her own spin on it, but
she
it wasn't
tried that far from the original.
Right. And she sort of, used the books as her guide, as did Julie Andrews. So, because Pamela Travers was up in everybody's face to make sure that they followed her books. So, anyway.
So, I mean, this movie all rests basically on Will Smith's shoulders, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
So, we will see what happens, but I will go see it.
Yeah. You'll be the one.
The one. No, I won't. There'll be other people.
All right, let's move on to another trailer.
Flows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds.
I don't belong here! The panic is attacking me! Oh, boy. Gallop, I'm howdy. I'm not a toy!
Hey, somebody get him before he pokes an eye out.
You're kidding me. He said that to your face?
To my face.
And then what happened?
So I get real close, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't care which Cabbage Patch you're from, kid. Give me back my Viewmaster before I knock the dimples off your face.
Oh!
Okay.
No, you didn't. You don't even care, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you are a I don't care bear. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Ducky.
Yeah. You see the new movie trailer?
For what?
You ain't see it?
See what? What is it, buddy?
Ducky.
What?
They're making another Toy Story movie.
No! I thought those movies were done, dog. They made 3
They
movies.
did make 3 movies. This is number 4.
Oh, shoot! Come on! I love the Toy Story, dog.
Toy Story is my jam.
What about Buzz Lightyear's dog?
I am Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger.
And then Woody's like, you are a toy!
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Woody.
Do the flying thing he does. Do it. Do it.
To infinity and your mom.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's not right.
You sure?
No, that's not right.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
No, let me show you. To insanity and a blonde.
What are you even
That's how it goes.
saying?
No, that's how it goes.
To immunity and respond.
To indecency
To
and...
infrequently...
Hey, guys, you got it all wrong.
It's to infinity and beyond.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
You can't go to infinity, dummy. It's impossible.
He over here talking about infinity.
You're gonna go beyond infinity.
You don't know nothing about science.
Okay, so obviously 3 was not enough.
Nope.
So Toy Story 4, we don't know much about it, but we do know that it somehow involves a carnival at some point and a spork.
Who is not a toy.
Well, I read or sort of absorbed in my brain somehow that the girl, what's her name, the new owner of the toys?
Oh, Bonnie.
Bonnie makes this in school or something and then puts it in her room and considers it a toy.
Right.
And so it's having a what do you call it? A personality crisis? Not a personality. Identity crisis. This spork is going through an identity crisis. And so I think part of the story is going to revolve around how he learns to accept himself, and maybe everyone else in the nursery learns to accept him as a toy, because he's what makes a toy a toy? I think that's going to be a question in this movie. And the spork is somehow going to play a pivotal part. You know, is it a toy because it's manufactured in a toy factory, or is it a toy because of how the child relates to it? I think that's going to be touched on. That sounds like a Toy Story type theme, right? And then somehow they're going to end up at a carnival at some point. And I read that Woody and Buzz are going to be pinned up on a wall of the toys you can win while people are playing with, and they're gonna be like, hey, let us out of here, and somebody stepped on my boot. So anyway, it sounds interesting, some of the areas they're going to. Alright, did they need a Toy Story 4? No. Do I hate that they're doing it? No.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I love these characters, you know.
I mean, they didn't need a Toy Story 3, but I mean, Toy Story 3 was great.
Yeah, I'm torn. I don't know. I love all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think the third is my favorite.
I think the second is my favorite.
Second is probably my second favorite. But I don't know. I'm sort of I could change my mind in 5 minutes on that. They're so good, both of them. Anyway, we don't know much else other than that. And I heard somehow, we're going to find out what happened to Bo Peep. There's going to be a whole thing about why wasn't Bo Peep in the last 2, was she in the second one? I don't think she wasn't.
I'm pretty sure she was.
She definitely wasn't. She definitely wasn't in the third one. So we're gonna find out what happened to Bo Peep. That's gonna somehow be involved. So that's what's gonna happen. As far and I'm sure there'll be other stuff going on as well.
Yeah, and one thing that Tim Allen was saying is he had a hard time getting through the final scene when he was voicing Buzz Lightyear. So he said it was pretty emotional.
Yeah, so we're going to have another one of those tearjerker endings, it sounds like.
Yeah, bring some tissues. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So, I don't know how I feel about...
This is going to be fun. You know, a fun movie in the middle of the summer, you know, for families to go to. I mean, this is what Toy Story is. Whatever movie you're seeing, any of the Toy Story movies, they're fun family movies, and they're feel good. And I feel like this is just going to fall right in line with that, and everybody's going to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, I don't hate this. I'm okay with this. But one thing that I noticed, and I mentioned this to you while we were watching those trailers, they need to do a spin-off of the Keenan and Peele character. I could watch a whole movie just with them.
Yeah, Ducky and Bunny, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe do a short. Maybe do a short with them.
Oh,
that would
they
be,
could definitely do that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them. I can't wait to see more of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to our last trailer for tonight.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom. But a king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king. Well, the live-action, animated, whatever you want to call it, CGI Lion King is going to be roaring into theaters this July. And from what we have seen in the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a shot-for-shot remake with maybe a little new stuff, but mostly it's going to be the original movie, but portrayed with realistic looking animals. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I know that this is going to be a big smash.
Yeah, because this teaser trailer, when they released this became the most watched YouTube video.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been that much in... I mean, I liked it, but it's definitely... I'm not a Lion King fan. Fanatic, that's better.
Yeah. I'm totally right there with you. I like The Lion King. I saw it when it came out in 1994.
Yeah. I saw it the day it came out.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it the date, but I definitely saw it in the theater. I like it. I like the characters. I like the story. But I don't have as close of a connection to that movie as I do, say, Aladdin
or Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Or Little Mermaid. Yeah, I agree with you. I never had that close of a connection, but I think we are the outliers. I think
we are, yeah.
Most people, even Disney fans, really connect to this film.
Yeah.
And I liked it, and I think it's a terrific movie, don't get me wrong, but I just don't... It's not among my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not that excited about this, only because of that. I mean, and I'm also not excited about it because I'm sick and tired of all these remakes.
Right.
And especially when they don't try to bring something new to the table. I think
If
that
they
was
are,
sort
they
of...
do shot to shot, why?
Yeah, there's no point to it. And then the other thing is, like, they did that with Beauty and the Beast, and, you know, even though it was financially successful, it was not critically successful.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, if you look at that sort of thing, when you talk about staying power, like, one of the reasons why Disney has always been so successful is because of the timelessness of its films. So generations will go watch like, you know, little children today are still watching Peter Pan and Cinderella and Snow White. And these movies are 60, 70, 80 years old. They're not watching any other studio's films that are from the 30s and 40s, little kids, other than Disney. There's no little kid sitting through Casablanca. Or even young adult, because they're not exposed to those. So really the only way that the millennial generation has been exposed to older films is Disney, for the most part. They don't seek out, I mean, there's exceptions. I'm using a very big generalization here, and there's many exceptions, but statistically, overall, most millennials aren't going to seek out Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, you know, old classic films, but they were brought up on Peter Pan, Cinderella, Mary Poppins, so they're familiar with those. So I think that these live action versions aren't going to have, like, in 20 years, the little kids of these millennials, or the kids of the millennials, are going to still be watching the originals.
Right, the animated.
Yeah, these are gonna be these are gonna come and go. They're not gonna have the staying power of the originals. These are gonna be released in the theaters, and they have been released in the theaters, and then for a few years, everybody, you know, it makes all the money it's gonna make, and then that well dries up. And it's not going to make money. Like, people aren't going to be excited to show their kids the live-action Lion King. They're going to be excited to show them the animated one. They're going to buy the animated one. They're going to buy merchandise based on the animated one. They're going to buy the soundtrack based on the original animated one. And the live-action one is going to be a flash in the pan. They'll make their money now, and it'll just kind of die with Casablanca and Gone with the Wind and all those movies. Yeah. It's not going to be remembered generation to generation to generation. So Disney's going to make money on it now, but they're not thinking long term, because Snow White was a huge success, but it has doubled and tripled and quadrupled its profit through its marketing, its reissuing, I mean, little girls are still buying Snow White dolls to this day. So they're not buying the Barbie doll based on the live action Beauty and the Beast, because first of all, she's frighteningly hideous. They would rather buy the doll that looks like the animated Belle, right? So they're still making more, in the long term, they're making more money off of the original than they're ever going to make, even though initially the box office is great. That's because it's the curiosity factor. People want to compare and contrast to the original, you know?
Yeah.
I just feel like these movies don't have the staying power, and they're going to die off, and you know, that's fine. Disney made their money back, and they made a nice profit, but if you really want to keep future generations excited about their product, they need to come up with original ideas. Yeah. Because what's going to happen is all they're going to release is these reruns of everything. Reruns, redos, repeats, and the well is going to dry up. There's not going to be anything from this era that we're in right now that the children of, 2050 are gonna
look to. They're gonna go back. They're gonna skip this generation, and all that. This whole era is gonna be a wash.
Right.
They're not gonna have anything to market from this time period. They're not gonna have anything that, you can look at the 70s as the same thing. That period after Walt died up until the Renaissance, people aren't going out. I mean, you and I are, because we're diehards, but like most people aren't going out looking for Maid Marian dolls from Robin Hood.
So cute.
We would go crazy, but most people wouldn't even know who that was.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
And one of my favorite animated movies is The Aristocats, so 1970.
Yeah, although that's sort of, in more recent years, has sort of a cult following now, especially because of Maria, the cat, sort of has become... Yeah, Marie. She's sort of become sort of a favorite nowadays, but that's kind of that's sort of an outlier. That's unusual. Most movies from the 70s you and I know and love, but the general public wouldn't know the Apple Dumpling Gang from how the West was won. They don't understand any of that. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I just feel like Disney is really not thinking long term when it comes to these. And Walt Disney, when he was making movies, was always thinking long term. He was always thinking about making stories timeless and classic. He had that in mind. He cut scenes out because he felt they were too trendy. They were too focused on the time period that they were making the movie. So he purposely took stuff like that out to make his films more timeless, and but whatever.
That's why he was a genius.
Yeah. So that is our look at our what was that show with Siskel and Ebert? At the Movies.
Yes. Disney at the Movies.
At the Movies with Chris and Ruthie. So Ruthie, you have anything you want to say as we wrap up our movie review for today?
Well, I'm going to see all the movies that we talked about, and I'm looking forward to them. Obviously, some more than others, but I mean, I enjoy that I have a handful of movies that I get to see, and go to the theater and see. I really enjoy the experience of going to the theater, so I'm going to keep it up this year.
Well, I think there's like 2 of them I'm looking forward to. Anyway, where can everybody find us on the web, Ruthie?
You can find all of our past shows, including audio versions of Dateline Jiminy Crickets, on our website, jcricketpodcast.blogspot.com. You can also listen to us on iTunes under the name Jiminy Crickets. That's with an exclamation point, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. On our YouTube channel, we share updates of the Disney Chris website, including the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour, as well as past episodes of the Jiminy Crickets podcast and Dateline Jiminy Crickets. You can find our channel if you search for DisneyChris.com, and remember, .com is spelled out DOTCOM. You can also join in the conversation over on our Facebook page, Jiminy Crickets Podcast, where you can not only interact with Chris and me and all the fellow Cricketeers, but you can also stay up to date with all of the latest details of our many World Wide Web endeavors. If you would like to contact the show with any comments or questions, our email address is DisneyChris, DOTCOM, @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
And you can find me on Twitter at DisneyChris73, and if you'd like to tweet anything about Jiminy Crickets or my website, that would be the place to do so, because Ruthie's not on Twitter. Well, she is, but she never goes there. But she does go to Facebook, and you can find her at under the name Ruthie Brown. And you can find me under the name Chris Linden. That's spelled out Lyndon, as in Lyndon Johnson. And my website, if you're interested, is DisneyChris.com. And on DisneyChris.com, I share a daily Disney Song of the Day. And I also have a special thing I call the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour, where I have an extensive library of audio from Disneyland, over 1,600 audio tracks, artwork, descriptions, lots of history. Be sure to check that out. If you are interested in supporting us, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/DisneyChris. We offer special content to our Patreon subscribers, including exclusive audio, and we're going to start in the near future producing special video content, including commentaries of classic Disney animated shorts and a special game show that we're going to do. So you can look forward to that. And if you are sort of weary of Patreon, we also have a PayPal. And if you want to find all of our donation options, you can go to disneychris.com/donate.html. And there you'll find in all the ways you can become a supporter of what we do. And also, I just want to remind you that if you like this video, please consider giving us a like. Please consider subscribing. And for updates on all of our future shows, so you know when we're posting a new episode, make sure to ring that bell. Da-da-da-da. That was perfect timing. So, Ruthie, do you have any final words for today?
To quote Walt Disney, laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, dreams are forever.
And always let your conscience be your guide.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. M-I-C.
See you real soon.
K-E-Y.
Why? Because we like you.